Hey, recording this video after close of trade Tuesday 24th of June 2014. Hope you had a good day's trading today. Well, I want to talk about the next seasonal trade which is lining up right now. It's the July 4th trade. But before talking about that, just want to talk about the last couple of days' trades. So Monday was unbelievably quiet, another kind of low range day. It was about 5.5 points top to bottom. But today's activity, really nice explosive kind of downward move. And it was a nice kind of topping out pattern. If you go back to the daily, the 135-minute chart and the 45-minute chart here, you can see we were looking for a left shoulder here because we've had this beautiful little pullback to end of trend on these two lower time frames, and then finally we got that today with today's activity, and bang, we just sold off 20 points to the downside. I talk about these end of trend signals kind of rippling through the different time frames, kind of percolating through, and again this is just using a factor of 3 going between these different time frames. So there are 3 45-minute bars in a 135-minute bar, and there are 3 135-minute bars in a day session of the E-mini. So it's a useful way of kind of backing it down just using this factor of 3. Usually what I see is the pullback to end of trend signals going off in the lower time frame first, and then you get them kind of, that would be signaling a left shoulder, kind of then signaling in the next time frame, and that showing then being a kind of a left shoulder in the higher time frame. This particular example, we'd had this end of trend go off a couple of days ago on the 135-minute chart, and we were just waiting and waiting for finally that signal to go off on the 45-minute chart. So when they kind of came together today, bang, huge sell-off. I'd like to be able to say that we had a really nice kind of exhaustion pattern up here at the left shoulders, either here or here, and we kind of sold off, but that's not the way. You know, I don't think this entire uptrend move is over because we haven't had a real kind of blow-off move. What we're doing is we're dropping away from no demand type patterns, so we're just kind of reaching a little bit of an extreme. It's kind of overbought, no one else is out there buying, and we get these drops off, from which I think the professionals kind of step back in. You can see, you know, Rambo patterns, no demand type stuff here, same thing here, this kind of edge here, the same type of thing going on, kind of amateur up bars and Rambo patterns, and we just drop away. So it's more like a no demand type scenario, kind of causing that high to be in. But as soon as, you know, we start to drop, we drop quickly because everybody's kind of panicking, getting out and taking profits. They're so happy it's kind of gone so far so fast. Anyway, pullback to end of trends kind of going off nicely there, and it kind of dropped off. Also just want to show you, this is one of these, I called them a red, white and blue pattern on better volume. So on Friday I talked about a high volume churn bar here. That was Friday's activity. It was quadruple witching. We had incredibly tight volume, tight range, and then a fairly useful kind of volume. But that gave us a high volume churn bar, which means relatively high volume considering the range. And you get these kind of patterns when we have profit taking by the professionals, and you see them, as I said in that last video, kind of happening on these left shoulders here, here, you know, here and here, and so that's why we kind of dropped off. But it does give us this nice little pattern. I call it a red, white and blue pattern on the better volume here. So we have an explosive up volume bar, red bar showing explosive up volume, then the blue bar comes in showing churn, so a lack of progress, volume coming in and sellers kind of compressing the range there, so we get a whole bunch of churn, and then a rush for the doors kind of going the other way, so an explosive sell volume bar, exhaustion selling type activity here. So that's a red, white and blue pattern. You get them on the tops and bottoms. This last one here you can see explosive, red, white and blue, you know, kind of churn and then sell off, but it doesn't go anywhere. We just ran out of sellers at that point. No one was game to kind of take it on, and we kind of come back and do the same thing. I think this one's going to travel a little bit further, and the reason for that is you know, we've spent quite a lot of time up here, you know, testing these highs, and I think we're going to drop off a little bit, which plays into the pretty little seasonal pattern we've got kind of lining up, which is the 4th of July pattern. So 4th of July is next Friday, and I'll link to the seasonal indicators, the seasonal trades that I talk about. I think there are 5 particular seasonal trades I really like during the year. The last one that we had was at tax time, April, and it was a beauty. It actually just played out perfectly. The 2 indicators I'm using on this chart, first one is a seasonal indicator here. This one is loaded up. This chart is going back using daily data all the way to the 1st of January 1998. So I'm using pretty much all of the seasonal, all of the history in the E-mini in order to create this indicator. So it's a nice kind of indicator that calculates seasonality, but you have to make sure that you start it off on a 1st of January type bar, so the beginning of a year bar, because then it's counting from there and kind of resetting each year, so it needs to know that it's starting off on the 1st of January. So once it does that, then calculates, it takes out outliers, super bullish, super bearish kind of moves day by day, and then calculates what the average move is on that day, relative to a seasonal pattern, and plots this pretty little kind of oscillator backwards and forwards, with sell-off and rallies. So the last little move that we had, we were coming up to tax time, and coming into tax time, what we typically have is a sell-off as people are taking money out of the market in order to pay taxes, and then that money is being reinvested by tax-advantaged kind of investments back into the market. So we get a sell-off and a rally, and so that was the predicted kind of move based on the historical pattern. And that was actually what happened on the E-mini. It was just a beautiful little V pattern. It kind of bottomed perfectly and kind of rallied perfectly. They're obviously not always that kind of perfect. The reason why I like picking these particular 5 seasonal trades is I believe that more than just being kind of statistical anomalies, they actually have some fundamental backing behind them. And there's logic to this April 14th, I think is tax time, kind of sell-off and rally here, and that's why it has a stronger likelihood of happening. So the one that we got coming up, bullish activity tends to come into holiday periods. We have Christmas rallies, the Santa Claus rally, kind of leading into Christmas. Thanksgiving, the same kind of thing. Well, we also have the same thing coming into July 4th. July 4th tends to be bullish around July 4th. A lot of people kind of just endorphins or whatever kind of running around your head. The market just tends to be bullish around holiday periods because people are happy. So what does that look like historically? And this is the other little indicator I have here on this chart, which is just a useful vertical line that's plotted historically. I'm just trying to adjust this to bring this into view so you can see this. It's looking back over 253. There are 253 trading days in a year, and it plots back 5 bars historically to show what was happening that time of year last year. So you can see that this is where we are today here at the end of June leading into the 4th of July weekend, kind of next weekend, and this is what was happening around here. And so this is the pattern, the seasonal pattern that we need to be kind of anticipating, and it leads off with a nice little sell-off. This kind of period, this particular date was 19th of June coming into the 20th of June here. So we have a sell-off here and then a little bit of a rally leading into the 4th of July. So there's the 2nd of July, 3rd of July here. So the bullishness comes into the 4th of July. In as much as the tax time pattern was a sell-off and then at tax time it then takes off, this is a little bit of a V-shaped reversal pattern that it happens 10 days before effectively the 4th of July. So we get weakness and then allowing us to have a nice little rally into the 4th of July. So back last year what we're talking about is a low being made, well, really around the 24th, but this pattern typically shows a low around the 26th, 27th of June, and then leading into that strength up until the 3rd of July. So really the weakness that we had today was part of that. And if you were watching the seasonal indicator, and I know some people were because I got emails about it yesterday, that we had actually a negative print, forecast print yesterday for the seasonality indicator. So this yesterday, this shows the forecast for the next 3 days using that historical average kind of going forward. So we're talking about some weakness for the next couple of days, but actually yesterday what this was showing was we were sitting up here and we had one of these blue forecast bars right there at the -1 kind of print. So we were expecting that weakness, seasonal weakness today. So we got the start of that sell-off, and I think that sell-off's going to go a little ways because we've broken down with these pullback to end of trends here. I think the next place down that seems logical is cyclical support on the daily chart. If this is a left shoulder, put in cyclical support, and then that'll be a pullback to end of trend. So let's see kind of how that plays out in practice. But we've got this nice little seasonal pattern kind of lining up. We've got a couple more days of weakness, and then beginning of next week, kind of, or Monday, Tuesday of next week, some strength leading into that Friday, which is the 4th of July. So let's see how it kind of turns out. As I said, the last one that we had, tax time this year, was a beauty. Turned out like this, and certainly we got the makings of it happening with today's activity, of that nice kind of sell-off, kind of playing into that kind of cyclical pattern. So looking for some weakness kind of continued going forward, and let's see as we come into the 4th of July how this pattern kind of turns out. Hope your trading is going well.